SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo!
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. It is Monday, August 25th. Tough to believe we're already at the end of August. It feels like summer just started, but your week and my week is just starting here on August 25th. Morning, Lance. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Lucian. Welcome back. I haven't seen Ricardo de la Cruz since Thursday a week ago. So you were the last person on the morning show that I got to work with. So you're back. I get two in a row of Lucian for me.
Well, I was going to say, welcome back to you. You had the hardest working man in show business. Took a week off.
Yes, it was nice. Got a lot of yard work done for a few days and realized that there's a lot of time to kill when you don't work. And, so then I slept like a bear for 2 days, and then I kind of got back into the normal groove. Went to deer camp this weekend and cleaned up after the Saturday shows and got a lot of weed eating done or wet eating, and that was always fun. We hadn't been up here in a few months. There's usually a few things to do. So,
well, I was going to ask you because you strike me as the sort of person where vacation means not working at your paying job, probably just working at a bunch of other things,
but other stuff, right?
Exactly.
But it is what it is, and. Very fortunate to have had such great people to sit in. And I know Perez got to hang out. He came in Saturday. He's like, man, I've been in the booth a little bit. I said, did you miss it? He goes, I don't know if I missed it. I did have fun, though. So
I've missed seeing old Perez. I saw him, I guess, at the golf tournament before last. They had me in for a segment to talk about something, and he was up there working, and it was good seeing him.
Yeah, he's such a good dude. And he kind of – the old Seinfeld episode, The Saddler.
Right.
Yeah, he can sidle up. He's so quiet. He'll sidle up. Oh, what's up, Perez? So it's always good to get to see him. And I know he was glad to sit in the booth and not have to do it every day. That's the benefits of semi-retirement.
Look, it's my favorite way to do it is to, a couple times a month, pop in, get to do this, and then sleep in the rest of the time. Sleep in relative to 3, anyhow.
What have you been up to, man? I know you had a busy weekend of being a parent with kids back in school and all that. What was going on with y'all?
This was the big, the sporting act. The kids went back to school week before last, but this was the first weekend where you had started having sports and whatnot. So we had the big kickoff soccer jamboree, which the kids did enjoyed doing. My youngest scored a few goals. Now, he's 4, so they let him get away with grabbing the ball with his hands, moving it out away from everybody, and then kicking it down there for a goal. But it worked. It worked. They had a great time.
And it's this time of year is a magical time to me. I love it when you know that the end is near for the heat wave.
Oh, absolutely.
It is inevitably August. It gets dry. It gets hot. And then all of a sudden football starts, and you forget about how hot it is and There's something to take your mind off of it. Because during the summer, you watch baseball, dudes in polyester out there in the sun running around. That doesn't look very, cool.
Right.
You got to go inside almost to watch baseball. It's a golf type sport. You don't want to pool around or something.
Yeah, that's right.
But as soon as you get the kickoff, things change. There's a little something in the air. And we have a few games that were played this past Friday night.
Yeah, we're technically in football season.
We had week 0 of Mississippi high school football. Week 1 will officially start Friday, and we'll have our kickoff show, which will be the embryonic of the year for the Mississippi Football Scoreboard Show, brought to you by Farm Bureau. Been doing that for quite a while, so I hope you guys will tune in. It will be a huge weekend, not just in high school football. We have a couple of big games in college ball ensuing as well, and I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to see Arch Manning and Ohio State tie up.
That's going to be fun to watch. Is that this weekend?
This Friday. I believe it's Friday. I'll look on the sports segment exactly what time and date. But that's the one that really, when you look at a game and you got one circled and you're not a fan of either team, you just pick a game out there. That one right there seems to be monolithic.
Mm-hmm.
You got a Manning get in his first true start with his team. Now, he started some games last year in lieu of the injured Ewers, but I mean, I'm really curious to see what the young man's going to do. I don't care if he went to Ole Miss or not. He's a heck of a football player. Comes from a long line of great quarterbacks. And I'm one of those that I'm looking forward to seeing. What about you? Is there anything you're looking forward to this weekend as we really get going? Pro football's rolling.
I'll be honest. I hadn't even looked at the schedule for this weekend. I'm waiting to get my instructions from my wife on where I'm going to be for which events this weekend.
Yes, sir. I understand that.
And it's starting to. You were talking about the weather there. I mean, it's still warm. There's no doubt about that. But it's starting to get. You're seeing little bits of it getting cooler. In the morning, it's still warm, but it's not that brutal temperature in the morning. Now, we're hearing on the C Spire text line that Texas Ohio State are Saturday at 11.
I thought it was a lunchtime game. Yes.
So if you want to be part of the conversation, or if you want to let us know when you think we're wrong, hit us up on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. And it looks like tomorrow and Wednesday it's going to get cooler, at least in central Mississippi.
Probably so. I mean, I can say that when you look at the weather right now, it's either going to be a 20 or 30% chance of rain, 90, 95, and about a 102 heat index.
That's
and
right.
about a 5-mile-an-hour wind. I can tell you, I'm doing it about every day. But, it's not changing much right now. But we will get down, like in the Delta, you should see some 80s and during the week. So we're going to throw you off a little bit. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but right now, 60s in the evening in the Delta, which is usually
nice.
The hotter place in the state. It's usually around Greenville, Greenwood, and then you'll have 82 on Tuesday. Today about 91, which is okay when you think about 95 and all that. But no heat index values have actually been thrown out there, which is unique. Usually when it's going to be cooking, they're going to let you know about it. North Mississippi, a high near 84 today.
That's nice.
Yeah, a low around 62 in the evening.
That's starting to feel like fall
break,
right there. Yeah.
Tuesday, partly sunny. High near what? What am I about to say here? 76.
Where? A high of 76?
Yes, it's Oxford area.
Goodness, break the
That's what I'm
sweaters
saying.
out.
I mean, like usually the weather is the same thing every day. No, it's changing right now. You got a little something in the air, and it's going to start showing this week. The coast today 93 in Kiln. But the low tonight 70, not bad. Not bad.
At all.
92 tomorrow, and then high near about 89 on Wednesday. So it's dropping. You're getting a little bit of that Gulf breeze. And you always know when you get on the coast, it's always a little bit cooler. You get that breeze.
Which makes such a difference.
90 degrees is like 86, 85. So should be fairly pleasant throughout the state over the next few days. I don't really see a whole lot of rain in the forecast.
That's nice.
So you may need to water the plants, water the yard a little bit. One of the last bastions of watering you may have to do here. Set up the perimeter and let it roll. But that's what we got on the weather. Bunch of cool things did happen on this day. We probably won't be able to get to all of them. It's kind of a death day, along with some interesting things. 1944, guess what happened?
Did we liberate the French?
Paris. 2 months. Think of that. 2 months after landing.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
2 months to get there. They let the Jacques-Philippe Leclerc enter the city with his army. I'm sure that was one of those things here, take the flag and you're going in first. But that was a pretty significant event because
absolutely
that was kind of the wave that allowed everything to start going in the direction that the Allies were hoping, making headway, putting one foot in front of the other, and liberating Paris. And Sean Connery, born on this day.
Oh, really?
And he died in the Bahamas. He was born in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1930. Tim Burton, Elvis Costello, Regis Philbin.
Oh, we got some real birthdays.
Some great birthdays. And then George Wallace, we remember him, also have some deaths on this day. Unfortunately, 2018, John McCain passed at 81. 2012, Neil Armstrong passed at 82.
Goodness.
And then in 2009, John F. Kennedy, the survivor, Ted Kennedy, we know the Chappaquiddick and all that, he passed his 77 in 2009. He was the last surviving brother of the great President John Kennedy.
He was only 77 when he died.
77, yeah.
Not a famously healthy lifestyle.
Yeah,
so.
I don't. Today that's not 77. Was that average?
Yeah, that's about the average lifespan.
Another interesting thing that happened on this day, many folks probably remember the name of the John Birch Society, but some probably don't remember why it was named after John Birch. Well, he was an American Baptist missionary and a U.S. Army intelligence officer. Two nice things to have going for you. You know, a missionary,
no doubt,
God on your side, and also a spy. He was killed by Chinese communists and later inspired the foundation of the John Birch Society, private organization considered Birch to be the hero, the first fallen hero of the Cold War.
Huh.
That's how he got the moniker there.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So.
Well, y'all stick with us. We'll have more coming up after this break. You're here on Super Talk Mississippi, listening to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Sneaking Sally through the alley. When up pops the wife, I said I can't find nothing wrong with being friends, 'cause sometimes she lets me use the car.
From the Venable Glass Track.
Know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith, and for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day off the informed way here on August 25th. Got a great show coming up for you. Laithan Simmerman will be on at 7 o'clock. He wrote a piece recently for Super Talk Mississippi talking about what Mississippi can learn from college sports about recruiting the best and the brightest to the state. We'll have Dr. Dan Edney, the state health officer, in at 7:20 to talk a little bit about the recent public health emergency that's been declared over rising infant mortality rates. And at 8 o'clock, J.T. Mitchell, news director for Super Talk Mississippi News, will be in to preview what might be some of the biggest headlines of the week. And if you want to be part of the conversation, as always, you can send us a text here at 601-879-4395. Well, Lance, you got any other birthdays, big things today?
Good stuff today. Well, in 325, a few years ago,
okay,
the Council of Nicaea, we remember those guys.
There we go.
The first ecumenical council of Christian church, called by Emperor Constantine I, brought to an end the controversy of Arianism. I was like, what? It's not with a Y. It concludes that God the Father was on equal status with God the Son. So apparently that was, the first
one
council.
Of the early heresies.
So the first council dealt with that. Second was the one that kind of put the book together, if I remember correctly.
I think that sounds right, and that's
why
why
got that out of the way first. Then they met it later, many years later, and said, "Okay, let's put this thing together."
And if you say the Nicene Creed at church, if you said it yesterday, that some version of that probably wasn't in English at the Council of Nicaea. But
it goes back to 325.
Goodness gracious,
yeah, that's a while back, huh? Yeah. You also, when you know you're born and given the nickname the Terrible, you probably will be remembered. I don't know if they gave him the nickname the Terrible at birth, but in 1530, good old Ivan IV, Grand Prince of Moscow and the first Tsar of Russia, he was born and at some point got the name the Terrible. Hopefully it wasn't in bed, right? You never know, though. You also
good morning, everybody.
You also had an interesting, we go way back. You see pictures and paintings and things with folks saying, oh, that was an alien spaceship. And you see that. You got the painting. I can't remember exactly. Was it Da Vinci that has the spaceship in the background of like a lady holding a baby, and it's like a nun or something. I can't remember which one it is. But 1835, the New York Sun. Think of that. The Sun has been around for a while. Began running a series of news accounts that falsely claimed British astronomer John Herschel that he had observed all sorts of life on the moon, including winged human creatures about 4 feet tall. I guess they were good at measuring.
That's
back
cool.
then.
Yeah.
From a telescope. It became known as the Great Moon Hoax. Although the Sun, they never actually retracted the story.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, maybe there are 4-foot winged creatures on the moon. I don't know, but the Sun says there were. And
how long ago was that?
That was 1835. That's why I mentioned it, because, I mean, you go back a ways, you're going, that must have been a heck of a telescope to be able to measure winged creatures on the moon.
Plus, there's no way to back then you couldn't rebut it.
No, you go look. Yeah, you go. What did you see?
But hey, look, it sells papers.
They still sell a lot of papers. 1900, one of the greats, German classical scholar, and absolute mustache man. He has one of the greatest mustaches of all time. And you can go back in German history and find some great mustaches. Trust me, I do this all the time. They were the best at the mustache. But you had the death of Friedrich Nietzsche. Which doesn't kill me, only makes me stronger.
There we go.
You got that guy. He was one of the most influential modern thinkers, passed at 55 years old. Again, not very old. 1900, you'd think he probably maybe have a little bit more longevity, but I'm not really sure what nightlife he was up to.
Well, like a German philosopher feels like an American rock star. Maybe
exactly,
they kind of live a little on the hard side.
Almost like a composer and a philosopher of that era were rock stars.
Go.
1916, and you can thank Woodrow Wilson, signed the Organic Act, which established the National Park Service. Many people think that it would have been Roosevelt who did that because he was such an outdoorsman and big on creating parks, but it was actually Woodrow Wilson in 1916.
I did not know that.
And it's cool because the picture looks like a picture from The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews on top of a mountain, singing, "Oh, the sound of music." It's a beautiful picture. It looks like the Tetons.
Well, you'll have to tweet that out so people can see it.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one. And then 4-time governor of Alabama, I mentioned him earlier. He passed away. Actually, let's see, in 1919, he was born. We have so many deaths today. I'm sorry, but he was born in Clio, Alabama. Does anybody know where Clio is?
I do not, but I bet you that somebody's going to light up
a statue right there.
I'm sure there is.
4-time governor, 62 to 66, 70 to 78, 82 to 86. Led the American South in a fight, eventually abandoned, the fight of segregation based on federal orders. And
he in the end was very apologetic about his position on that, wasn't he?
He did the full 180.
Right.
He kind of came back around. But, man, he was a fist banger out there at the beginning of it. So that's most of the stuff I have for you on this day in history.
There we go. Some as you know, reading them regularly, some of the times there's not a lot happened, but this is one of those days where we had a bunch, birthdays and otherwise.
Fun. Honestly, I looked at it yesterday and I went, "Wow, that's a great way to come back on a Mondays to have a bunch of good things." And you hate to mention deaths, but people pass, and we need to honor them as well. But the one that got me was 77 for Kennedy. I was like, man, that was young compared. Tragic family, honestly. Just whatever you think of them, it's been a tough run.
Talking about this Ted, I was going to say Senator Kennedy, but I guess they were all senators, but Ted Kennedy, 77 I think is around the average lifespan for an American male, but that's literally all American males. The guy was a rich United States senator, so you would think, he's got access to the sort of health care that the normal people who bring that average down don't get the kind of health care that Ted Kennedy had access to. So that's surprising he was that young.
As a Politico, how do you rank the Kennedys? Not John, but if you were looking at them as a political family, a Bush type family, the types of families that have been in American politics have steered things and been a part of some of the greatest and biggest decisions. How would you rank them?
That's an interesting question.
Are you favorable, I guess I would say, or do you look at the Kennedy clan and family as negatively?
I think the work they did. I think the way the Cuban Missile Crisis ended certainly accrues to their credit. I think on policy, I tend to disagree with what the Kennedys were for. Certainly, what Teddy would have been for when later in his career, really most of his career. Yeah,
he was the most liberal of the group, if I recall.
I think that's right. But at the same time, in terms of a political family's influence, you don't see a lot of families that have had that sort of enduring legacy. There's still, I think some of the shine has come off over time, but you still hear people talk about Camelot, whereas most of these people who were popular while they were in office, I feel like it just goes away over time. People are much more critical.
Is a historical type. You know, I research a lot and love history and political science and study it all the time. It's my hobby. But it always seems to me like it was almost a time in history where that family was able to achieve the things they were because of the conditions of the world.
That's probably right.
Maybe the pomp and circumstance of politics in the office, where you didn't have near the I gotcha, the paparazzi per se that was always looking to get someone, get them in trouble, catch them. I don't know if the Kennedys would have fared well in the modern era today. To me, I just
probably not. I mean, the one thing they would have going for them, and
is policy, maybe,
is that because they were Democrats. They might have been able to get away with it because the modern media loves to create any sort of positive narrative they can around Democratic politicians, no matter what the truth is. Now,
I think your name is Gavin Newsom, huh?
Exactly. Well, look, Dave from Ripley, and I think Dave may be right, points out on the C Spire text line that Ted Kennedy died of cancer. So that's
okay.
That is the reason that he died at 77, as opposed to 10 or 15 years later. So, Dave, thank you for reminding us of that. That is a very good point. But you're right. They really did have a. I mean,
you couldn't get away with
reach.
Chappaquiddick today. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's right.
That ain't happening. I don't care what party you're from or who you are. You're not getting away with that.
I think that's probably right, but there's still. I mean, it just shows how this sort of liberal bent in the media was strong even back then. Because I tend to agree with you.
Up.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
What a mess that was. So and for the family that. Of the girl that passed. So having to deal with all of that red tape and the power and the politics and it's one of those stories. That movie Chappaquiddick, which is very well done.
I've never seen it.
It's very well done. I mean, I think it's as historically accurate of a one of those historical type of movies as I've seen it, because I've read a ton and devoured as much as I've ever you can find on Chappaquiddick, and it seems to stick to even though it's not very glowing of the Kennedys, it's still a very well done movie.
It's accurate historically,
accurate, and I don't think it hurts them. It seemed to straddle both sides of that well.
Well, it's so tough when you watch those sort of historical, not tough, but you have to be mindful of the fact that a lot of times they're fictionalized accounts. You don't know how much of it is made up, and you got to treat it as entertainment as opposed to history. So it's good. It's interesting to have that perspective where you've actually done the research and can say that it's historically fairly accurate. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We'll have some sports coming up next.
Inside track on Mississippi politics. Yeah! Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. It is Monday, in case you had forgotten, August 25th, as we begin the final week of August. I'll tell you, we were talking in the last segment about the Sun publishing the story in the 19th century about the 4-foot winged creatures that were said to be living on the moon. This has been a few weeks ago, but did you see the story about the Harvard astrophysicist who's talking about the comet that's coming through in November?
What was the name of that comet? It's
I think 3I Atlas.
Atlas, yeah, the 3I Atlas.
That maybe it's, if you read,
spaceship.
Yeah, that it could be a spaceship because of the hyper precise direction that it's taking, and that has been sensationalized in a bunch of headlines. I think when you read the paper, they kind of admit, and I didn't read the full paper, I just read the full story, but at the end of it, they say it's most likely a comet. It's just a possibility.
Leave that open for you, just in case.
That's right.
Yeah, they don't want to be wrong.
But
this is only a comet, and then all of a sudden little winged creatures start jumping off and...
We are unlikely to be invaded by aliens, but at least we will know by Thanksgiving whether or not we are going to be or not. So there you go. Don't worry too much about it.
I've been wondering when it was going to happen.
Well, Lance, you got any sports for us here?
A little, just a little. Yeah, we're actually getting into that time where there's more than a little now, and I know you guys are so excited about having more than a little sports, but there was a little bit of a college football field this weekend with 5 games that were going on. Iowa State, Kansas State was the 2 that were ranked. Iowa State won that one 24-21. Idaho State, UNLV played. UNLV won that one 38-31. That UNLV team last year, remember they had the weird deal with the quarterback that had started like 4 games and basically said, I'm out, I don't want to play anymore. And ended up having a great season in lieu of that. So UNLV, again, off to another good start this year.
Are any of these – I mean, I'm glad we're trying to grow the game of football overseas, but I wonder, like, is it picking up? I mean, are these games –
I will mention I always thought – I've been curious why we don't recruit Eastern Europe. I mean, there's just like 6'8", 6'9",
exactly.
and they all box. You know, they all fight. Yeah, they're huge, man. But hey, that's me. I know in basketball that's recruited well, but football, so much equipment. You got so many things. It's expensive. Basketball, you just need a basket and a ball, and that's one of the reasons I think basketball. You see guys from all over the world. Rather than baseball and football, it's just so much more equipment. Fresno State, they dropped one to Kansas, 31-7. Sam Houston lost opener to Western Kentucky, 41-24. And then Hawaii took Stanford down 23-20. So that was your lineup there this weekend. I did not catch any of those games. I didn't even care that they were on. I might have watched the Iowa State, Kansas State game had I known it was on.
I hadn't thought about it, but I assume that was just crazy early.
Yeah, that was just the early stuff. Right. There will be a full slate of games, obviously, this weekend. Starting Thursday, August 28th, Central Arkansas at Missouri. If you're an SEC fan, we'll run through the SEC schedule real quick because it is an action-packed schedule for the opening week. So, as I mentioned, Central Arkansas at Missouri, 6:30. If you're going to be in Columbia, you can get that ticket for $20. Friday, Auburn and Baylor. So that ought to be a pretty good ball game. That'll be in Waco at McLean Stadium. Auburn -2.5 on that. So they're the favorite. 57.5 is the over. Should be a pretty high-scoring game if Coach Freeze found him a quarterback. You never know, though. So that is a 7 o'clock game on Friday. So you got a Thursday and you got a Friday SEC game. And then the full slate through Saturday, as mentioned earlier by one of our listeners, the Texas-Ohio State game, number 1 versus number 3. Texas being the number 1 there. That's a Fox game, 11 o'clock. If you are in Columbus, Ohio, $338 may get you in the door. I bet it will be more by the time you get there. Ohio State, 1.5-point favorite. Not the highest scoring game that they're predicting, 47.5 points. We'll see how that one rolls. That's going to be a fun one, though. Syracuse at Tennessee is 11 o'clock. Mississippi State at Southern Miss, another breakfast game. I know a lot of people are real interested in that one. I want to take 2 seconds to say what Coach has done in Hattiesburg, flipping the roster, creating a culture of work and opportunity. We got this in front of us. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in Hattiesburg. However, Mississippi State, SEC team, going on the road, though, to the Rock, going down to M.M. Roberts Stadium, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Mississippi State's a 12-point favorite, and it is a 61.5 over. So it should be what they're expecting is some going on.
Not a real defensive battle.
We'll see how that one rolls. But, yeah, State is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns there. Toledo at Kentucky, not a very interesting game. Marshall at Georgia. Georgia's number 5. That's 2:30. That will be at home for them. Alabama, Florida State. That's a game I think a lot of people, if they're looking at football and opening weekend, is one that's probably circled. Everybody wants to see what Simpson can do at Alabama, what kind of quarterback he has. Been there for 3 years. Maybe he's one of those Mac Jones types that comes in and just slings it and completes passes and manages the game. We'll have to wait and see. $241 will get you in the stadium at Tallahassee. Alabama being at 13.5.
241?
Yeah. Alabama's in town, 13.5
Yeah, that's
points. Fair. Alabama is the favorite there. You got Oklahoma and Illinois State. I'm sure that will be a fun one. Oklahoma is favored in that one by almost 40. So, yeah, that ticket's $26. And then Florida's taking on a juggernaut in Long Island University. They have them at 6 o'clock at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. You can get in the door for $37. They don't even have a line on this game. It's such a compelling game. Long Island University. I didn't even know they had a football team.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I knew they played baseball, but UTSA goes to A&M. A&M's 19. That game will be at College Station. 22.5-point favorite. A&M is on that one. And so probably the Roadrunners may get run off the road. However, you never know with A&M. I mean, they're always such an underachieving team. Under Elko, they've been pretty good, but I still keep the Texas 8-4 kind of name. That's my way of always looking at them. One team I'm extremely excited to watch this year. They're not going to make a bunch of money off this game, though, because the ticket's $8.
Really?
But Vanderbilt will be hosting Charleston Southern. Vanderbilt is a 36-point favorite. Now, I don't know how many times in history Vanderbilt's ever been a 36-point favorite against anyone, but they are expected to have a great team this year.
$8.
$8. That's right. They're not, like I said, not going to make a lot of money at the ticket price on the gate, but maybe they'll sell a beer or two. Or
that's like I was going to say that's like an old school price. That's going and getting a 25-cent Coca-Cola.
The quarterback up there now, he's fun to watch. So that's a game there that's going to be at 6:00. A lot of people will tune into that one, even though it's Charleston Southern. LSU at Clemson's a night game. 6:30 should be a really good game. Isn't that a repeat from last year? I thought they both opened. This one's going to be in Clemson, South Carolina, at the other Death Valley. Remember, LSU is Death Valley too, so we'll see who actually has the Death Valley. $315 in the door. Clemson is a 4-point favorite. Around 60 is the over-under. Georgia State goes into Ole Miss. Probably not much of a shot. Ole Miss is supposed to be pretty decent, but everybody's new. We'll have to wait and see what the Rebels look like at 6:45 at Vaught-Hemingway. Ole Miss is favored 38 points.
Whew.
Over under 60.5. Hopefully Ole Miss is the one that scores most of those. You never know, though. Ole Miss looks like had a solid defense under Pete Golding, a brand new offense. We will see how it pans out there. It usually takes a little time to get an engine warmed up that hadn't been crunk in a while. So I don't know about this offense, but I think the defense.
That's why you open with Georgia State.
Hey, that's right. Then you go on the road to Kentucky. It won't get any easier, but you do have some home games lined up after that. So Rebels, we'll see how they start. And then the last one on the weekend is Sunday, August 31st. One of those types of games is sneaky good. Virginia Tech at number 13, South Carolina, 2:00, ESPN, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia. South Carolina, under Sonora Sellers, is an 8-point favorite. 50 over-under on that game. So a lot of big matchups this weekend. I don't have time to go through all of them as far as outside of the SEC, but that Southern Miss State game will be a big one. We had a ton of NFL games this weekend. The Thursday night game saw Jackson Dart with Giants and Patriots play. Giants 3-0 finishing up the offseason here in the preseason. 42-0 they took out the Patriots. And Dart did a good job again. As they've seen all through the preseason ranks, he's just kind of continued to do well. And we'll see where he plays into this season as the Giants come out undefeated. But we'll have a full lineup of games. They start
the regular
Thursday.
Season? I was going to say, the regular season starts next week?
Starts Thursday, September the 4th.
Okay.
Cowboys and Eagles.
That ought to be
will
good.
Be your first one. Always a historic battle between the two. We'll see. I mean, you never know with the Cowboys. I'm one of those that I grew up having an affinity, mainly because they were on TV all the time, and everybody told they're America's team.
Right.
They had the cheerleaders, and all that. But, they just one of those teams. It's almost like Texas A&M. They always have hype, but they never seem to get to the promised land.
True.
It's been a while. So, we'll see about the Cowboys. Eagles are always good, sneaky good. One of those teams that you go, what do they do well? Well, they just play football well.
Yeah, that's right.
What they do. They play defense, they play offense, they kick field goals, they don't make mistakes. One of those types of teams that you hate to pull for because the ugliest uni's in the game. And who pulls for Philadelphia?
This is my mother-in-law's from South Jersey, so they're all big Eagles fans.
Yeah.
That's how folks pronounce it. The Eagles.
The Eagles. And then full slate. But the other big one I think would be a pretty good game because it's the NFL. Sao Paulo would be in Brazil. Corinthians Arena, 7:00 Friday, September the 5th. That'll be the Chiefs and Chargers. So.
But that's what I always wondered. Do people are the folks in Brazil? Do they come to these games and think, I want more of this, or is this like if we had a cricket match and you'd go and go?
I don't know what the ticket prices are because they don't ever put those on, but they fill them.
Those folks are showing up. So, y'all, this is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll be back with a lottery update after this.
My baby by my side. Boy, she the sweetest thing you ever seen. The dog is howling, and the hound.
From the Venable Glass.
Mississippi in the know. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us here on Monday, August 25th. Lance, you got a little more sports to cover there?
Yeah, I had one thing I wanted to get into here because it is a good story, and we had a big game that was kicked off this weekend. Madison Ridgeland Academy, they played Ravenwood, and there's a couple of significant things here in that one. MRA dropped the game 28-24, not because of not playing well. They jumped out, I think, to a 17-0 lead. And then a very talented Ravenwood team just kind of chipped away a couple field goals. And then talented 6'3", 215-pound quarterback, Femi Babalola.
Ooh.
That's a heck of a name, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Kind of like that Cam Scatabo. I think the name for that guy is what got him in the NFL, although he's a heck of a player. But this guy's been recruited by everybody. I think he has 19, 20 big offers. He has a Boston College commitment verbally. But Herbert Davis tied up with his son, who is the offensive coordinator at Ravenwood. Herbert Davis said, I got to see the kid play a couple times last year, and I knew he was really good. But they limited him really well in the first half. But as Coach Davis said, one of the problems they had in this game was closing it out. Ravenwood, a 6A team, one of the best in Tennessee, and this player, number 19, I think, in the state of Tennessee. So he has a bright future. But that ought to tell you a lot about a little small private school here in Madison, Ridgeland area of Mississippi going up and playing a 6A powerhouse.
That's impressive.
MRA is never afraid to do that. They do it so regularly that it's become a norm. I have immense respect for that program. I have a little tie to Hartfield because I have relatives there, and we do now with Michael Borky and JT Mitchell will be pulling out of their hat amazing football coverage every Friday night at Hartfield Academy or on the road. Hartfield will open with Columbia, not Academy, the public school. That'll be Friday night. So if you want to have our embryonic Michael Borky, JT Mitchell covering Hartfield football will be Friday night. But back to the MRA game.
And where do you get that? Is that on?
It's going to be on SuperTalk.
That's on SuperTalk.
Yeah, man,
okay.
That's going to be right here on your Jackson station. So I'm looking forward to hearing those boys get after it. I know they're excited. But back to MRA, just wanted to mention Babalola completed 17 of 33, 252, ran 19 times for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was enough and think about that. That's what it took to beat this MRA team.
Yeah.
A horse you had to let loose out there. Guy had about 400 yards total offense. And as Coach Davis said, the one problem they had last year was finishing games. And as he told his team, we're going to have to learn how to finish games. We had this one. So I can tell you one thing about this group. There was about 3,000 people at Patriots Field. MRA hosted. It is going to be a heck of a season in MAIS. And this team right here is one of them that you better pay attention to.
And things are just getting started.
That's right. That's what I had. So, we can do an abbreviated
Yeah, look, time for the lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation. No jackpot winner in Lotto America, but the estimated jackpot for tonight is $2.35 million. The numbers from Saturday, August 23rd were 1, 6, 11, 28, and 31. The star ball was 10. The all-star bonus multiplier was 3. Switching over to Powerball, the estimated jackpot for tonight is $750 million. That's got a cash value of $338.6 million. The numbers from Saturday were 11, 14, 34, 47, and 51. The Powerball was 18. The Power Play multiplier was 2. Double play numbers from Saturday, August 23rd were 9, 23, 24, 33, 44, and the Powerball number was 19. Mega Millions also had no jackpot winner, but the estimated jackpot for Tuesday, August 26th is $253 million. The estimated cash value of that is $113.8 million. The numbers from Friday, August 22nd were 18, 30, 44, 48, and 50 with a mega ball of 12. No jackpot winner with Mississippi Match 5. The estimated jackpot for tonight is $56,000. The numbers from yesterday's drawing were 5, 22, 29, 33, and 35. $750 million for the Powerball jackpot. It is getting on up there right now.
Yeah, I'm in. You know, I would take that in a heartbeat, and I would not build rockets or anything. I would just enjoy life, I think.
I know, that's the impressive thing about Musk. He got all that money from PayPal and then rolled it into all this other stuff. I'm like you. If I managed to have that kind of outcome on something, I would tell people I was a professional golfer because that's all I'd be doing.
That's it, buddy. I mean, I would not be inventing anything.Maybe like a double dually truck.
Oh, I might
stuff
be
like that.
exactly.
I'd just be having like fun, but it wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be sending people to Mars.
No.
A couple of quick winners from the list here. Players from Starkville and Pascagoula each won $2,500 on a Cash 4 ticket. A Canton woman won $1,000 on a Cash Pop ticket that she bought in Lexington. A Macomb woman won $50,000 on a Powerball ticket from Has to Go in Macomb. That's your lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation. Remember, you can't win if you don't play, but play responsibly. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more coming up, but coming up next is Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
My baby don't love me no more. Lord, I know good and well that her sister will.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Feel like a broke down angel, ain't got no driving wheel. Feel like a broke down engine, mama, ain't got no driving wheel. You've been down and lonesome, you know how a poor man feels.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services come in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Lance, do we have our 7 o'clock, or is that what
He's
you were telling
ready
me?
to go.
Oh, there
I
we
was
go.
saying you had time to go get coffee.
Oh, that's the important things. Yeah. That's one thing for those of you who've never been involved with live radio. You have to know down to the second what your breaks are and what you can take care of during that time. Well, with us here is Laithan Simmerman, a lawyer with Taggart Rhymes, who focuses on litigation and government relations. A bulldog, and he wrote a piece recently about recruitment from Mississippi. Good morning, Laithan. How are you doing?
Hey, morning, Lucian. I'm doing good. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoyed your piece for SuperTalk.fm, talking a little bit about what we can do to bring more people to Mississippi and keep the folks we've got. Yeah,
that's right. Well, first off, part of my resume, I think bulldog was my favorite thing that you had to say there. But yeah, I had this idea, like a lot of other Mississippians, I'm a big college football fan, but I like to take it a step further than just Saturdays in the fall. I keep up with recruitment. These last few years, you got to keep up with transfer portal because that's where a lot of these new players are coming from. And I kind of had the thought, as we have these brain drain issues happening in Mississippi, these college football programs are starting to kind of have the same thing because they're not just recruiting kids from high school anymore. They're having to convince their own rosters to stay on the team for the next season.
Right.
So taking that thought a step further, I figured, what are their steps that they take to try to keep their rosters intact? And they can't just recruit the people they already have. They have to go to other teams and pick from them to be able to build that roster out. So if we're thinking of that in the context of our state, not only do we need to keep focusing on the efforts of brain drain here, I think the responsible thing is to recruit from out of state as well.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Talk to us a little bit about how you think we can do that, and what are some of the points that you made on how we can go recruit folks from other places.
Right. Well, unfortunately, 64 counties lost population in the census, but the good news is that 18 of them gained population. So there is a blueprint here in the state for us to get a little bigger. I think in some of these points I made in the article, right now inflation's gone up. Affordability is a huge factor for people all around the country. And we are second, out of all 50 states, we're ranked second in affordability right now. So there's a leg up that we have. And I think we're bringing a lot of jobs in. This economic development that's happened over the last few years doesn't seem to be coming to a stop anytime soon. So I think that's going to continue to open more jobs in the state. And you combine those two factors, I think we have an interesting opportunity here to be able to seize on that and recruit folks. Because, talking about brain drain, a lot of 22-year-olds graduating college, if they have their sights set on Atlanta or D.C. or Nashville or another big city, we don't really have a similar place here in the state that's going to satisfy those big city eyes. It's kind of the terminology I use in the article. So I think a lot of our focus, while we may be losing out on the 22-year-olds, I think we should recognize that our strength may be the 26, 28, 30-year-olds who are ready to come back, settle down, start their families. I think that's where people end up coming back.
That's a great point. I mean, being a single 22-year-old in Nashville or Atlanta or something may be great, but I'd sure rather raise a family in just about any part of Mississippi than in those places.
That's exactly right. And I've talked to people, had that same exact conversation. And, if there's a political science grad that wants to go to D.C., it's going to be hard to convince them that Jackson's a better spot at that time. If they want to go, if they've grown up watching the Braves, they want to go watch those games, it's going to be hard to say, take some Shuckers season tickets instead. Okay. And not
different.
That those are
That's fair.
Bad things, but sometimes you got to get that out of your system. And then once they realize that, they want to get a little more career oriented and they want to come back home, that's where our strength lies.
Well, you talk about affordability. I have friends who live in the D.C. area, and people are living in what for them are $1 million homes that here, you could go get for a couple $100,000 probably. I mean, just the affordability gap between here and other places is immense.
Yeah, that's right. And we ought to be promoting that. And I think, down here, Coast Young Professionals is a group that started to highlight our own folks and how they're growing into leadership positions at younger age. And so if we're talking about this college football analogy, you have an 18-year-old coming out of high school. He's a 5-star. He's got all the options in the world. And these days you're talking about money and cars too. So True. That might be what they're looking at. And look, I watched this SEC documentary. DJ Lagway drives a Lamborghini. Okay, so I'm not making that up.
Yeah, and he's never played a full season either. It's like 5 games.
That's right. They don't give me that kind of leeway at work. But but when they get to 21, 22, maybe they're not so focused on those things. Maybe they're focused on, all right, look, I need to prepare for the NFL if that's where I want to go. So I want to get visibility. I want to get more playing time. So maybe they consider a different program that's going to be able to offer that to them instead of sitting on the bench at Alabama or Georgia. So if we take that and put Mississippi in that context, I think as far as D.C., New York, big cities, it's a good place to go. But if you're looking for somewhere to go grow into leadership at a really early age in your career, I think that's something else that we can offer that those places can't.
Well, you made a great point in the article about the success Mississippi's seeing in education and economic development. There ought to be a lot of opportunities, both professionally for people, but also, we do offer some great public schools as a result of some of the hard work teachers have done over the last 10 years. So if you're starting a family, it's a great place to do it.
Right. Yeah. And the education is a great point. And that metric that you cited in the article, last year we were 16th in the country, but if you go back a couple of years, we started out in the 30s and 40s,
right,
and it's only growing up. So, that's paired in with the affordability factor that I mentioned earlier. If somebody's wanting to come here and start a family, we're starting to see that Mississippi has these things to offer. And I think perception is also a huge thing too. We got to be able to promote this stuff and let people know that
that's so true.
Mississippi isn't behind. Mississippi is starting to get ahead.
Yeah, you make a great point, because people who aren't from here, I mean, those of us who are from here, whether we still live here, whether people have gone somewhere else, I mean, they know Mississippi's a great place. But a lot of folks who don't have an interaction with the state, we don't have the best image outside of the state because of a lot of reasons. You're absolutely right about that.
That's right. And I think we ought to be telling stories of people that stay here or come back here, and let everybody know that this is a place that you can really grow.
I'm curious, you make a great point about cities, because, there's nowhere in Mississippi that's Atlanta, Nashville, New York, you pick it. But, I've always thought the Gulf Coast maybe offers the closest thing we have to being in a, quote, big city. I mean, we're not talking about skyscrapers and that kind of density, but I mean, you do have lots going on all across the coast, lots of successful business down there. And I wonder if that's not a place that people, obviously folks from the coast know the coast, but if you're from further in the state and are thinking about a big town, if you ought not take a spin along our Gulf Coast first.
Right. Well, I'll definitely promote that, being a Gulfport guy myself. And like I said, these 3 counties down here have grown in population, and we're in proximity to big cities. So you have New Orleans, you're not missing out if you want to go over there and enjoy that for a time. If you want to live in Hernando or South Haven, you can enjoy what Memphis has to offer as well. But yeah, when you're talking about the coast, I think people are starting to realize what's being offered down here, that there's a lot of jobs that go with it too. And so I think maybe that can be a blueprint for other counties in the state to see if they can implement and start recruiting off of that as well, since it's working down here.
Well, everybody should go to supertalk.fm and check this article out by Laithan Simmerman. Laithan, we've got about 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
Well, I'll do a little college football talk if that's fine.
Go for it.
Halfway talking about that. We got the season starting on Saturday, so the Bulldogs will be taking on Southern Miss in Hattiesburg. And then Ole Miss is playing Georgia State, so we all have something to look forward to. Just know, if you have any bad moments in the week, you have college football to look forward to now. That's
a great way to end right there. Laithan, thanks for being with us. We've had Laithan Simmerman, a lawyer with Taggart Rhymes and author of a great piece on supertalk.fm. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Supertalk, Mississippi.
Is it on the way to fly?
The Venable Glass.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Walks down the street, he says, why am I short of attention? Got a short little span of attention, and oh, my nights are so long. Where's my wife and family? What if I die here? Who'll be my role model now that my role model is gone?
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us here as we enter the second block of the 7 o'clock hour on Monday, August 25th. Dr. Edney, the state health officer, will be with us here in a bit. He is stuck in some traffic. Sounds like we got a lot of people out and about, and some of them have hit each other. So that's slowing things down. Hope everybody's okay.
When you sit in this courtyard out here, which is a great little place to see the sun come up and all that, you always get to see whether it's going to be a very traffic-y day headed south on the interstate. Mm-hmm. Sounds like it might be.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of folks out there getting backed up. So we talked about big city living in the last segment, so some people are getting to experience some real big city traffic right now, even if they're not in the big cities.
I never enjoyed the traffic. D.C., it was just never my specialty.
I agree.
But it's part of what you have to deal with to live in those large cities.
That's right.
Jackson is not a large city per se, but the metro area is definitely a place where congestion happens.
It does.
It like a big city. If you're ever trying to go across the reservoir or those things, at a certain time, it is exactly what you get in the bigger cities.
You're absolutely well, and that's the thing about it. There's a trade-off with any sort of choice. I mean, Jackson, Mississippi, or really any part of Mississippi doesn't offer every single thing you're going to find in New York City or Atlanta. I think we offer a lot of things that New York City and Atlanta don't offer.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But you certainly, if you want to go live in Atlanta, you got to prepare for a half an hour commute or so, unless you're living right by wherever you're working.
Well, it's the same with getting to the grocery, or
that's right,
getting gas, or dropping by the pharmacy. Those things that normally, let's say here, take 10, 20, 30 minutes, you may be carving out 2-3 hours to go run a handful of errands. So
right.
The quality of life, I think we miss that sometimes. It's not just the education components or the type of home you can afford or those types of things. It's also the peace of mind that it doesn't take all day to go run down to Lowe's.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that does matter, and especially when you have children and time is finite and costs money generally to most folks. It's,
that's right.
Being able to use your time wisely, I find, although there are not as many professional, let's say, opportunities or entertainment opportunities in the central Mississippi area. Unlike, I would say, the coast, it does. North Mississippi has access to Memphis, as many would say. And the coast, 2 big markets there with Mobile, New Orleans, and even Baton Rouge to some extent. That's a pretty high-density area.
Yeah, that's right.
And there are a lot more things in the arts and the museums. And we see the growth of the coast all the time. We don't obviously talk about Memphis, but, it's almost like a suburb of Mississippi, because a lot of folks, I lived in Oxford 21 years, they drive from Oxford to Memphis.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Not a problem. They have no problem doing it.
Well, Mike in Gulfport, I think, sums up the coast, and there are lots of great parts of Mississippi, but I think he sums up the coast right. It's small city living with big city entertainment and jobs, and then you can be in New Orleans in an hour. So I think that's right.
Yeah, I love this. From Richard in Oxford. The Walmart parking lot in Oxford was like Atlanta traffic yesterday afternoon. So
that's not the Richard in Oxford?
I doubt that's Ricardo de la Cruz. Yeah. There are other Richards there, maybe.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
There are.
But no, he's right. Places like Oxford and Starkville and Hattiesburg on a certain day of the month, usually a Friday and a Saturday, are going to turn into exactly what it looks like to live in a large city. I've been extremely impressed with what Hattiesburg has done. Toby Barker, a heck of a mayor.
Mm-hmm.
The growth there and the plan, too. You can see a plan. It's not just random growth.
Right.
And I think that has a lot to do with what we're seeing in Mississippi today as well. And a lot of our smaller towns is there's a plan. They have a master plan. Hey, let's do this. And as Laithan was talking about, having ways to recruit and to keep people here, sometimes you need to put that out so folks can see it. And not everybody's driving around town every day going, oh, well, we've got this now and we've got that. I think Mississippi does, at times, a poor job of promoting itself.
Yeah,
with all of the great things that we do offer. There's not just one stop shopping where you can just go, okay, there it is. That's what I want to do this weekend.
Well, we're doing such a good job of promoting ourselves to economic development opportunities, but I think you're right. I don't know that we do as good of a job of promoting ourselves to potential residents of the state. And Lathan's article references what Natchez did to try to incentivize people to come down and move to Natchez, which I think is great. I mean, and I think a lot of people learned during COVID that they didn't necessarily have to work, or didn't necessarily have to be in their office every single day. And I do think it was a real boon for communities across the country, and I think Mississippi benefited some from it, where people said, "Hey, I can still have that big city job, but spend most of my time in an Oxford or a Bay St. Louis or a Natchez, and have a much higher quality of life, much lower cost of living than trying to live in some brownstone in New York City with 2,000 square feet."
I agree. I played ball with a couple guys from Ocean Springs, have some friends from the coast and Ocean Springs area and all that. And I've never met anyone from the coast that isn't in a good mood usually. It's just something about it. It's a different place. And I worked in the arts, but more on the tourism side many years ago. One thing I learned was that Mississippians are terrible about going and doing the stuff that's here sometimes.
True.
I think we've gotten better at that. But again, we also found that sometimes we're not the greatest at letting folks know what we do here, especially the residents of Mississippi. So I believe we're getting better at that, quite frankly. But, years ago, Jackson was actually one of the forerunners of the arts. We had Jubilee Jam and these great exhibitions going on. And, there were, at times, I think Mississippi has had some of those pieces, but it's not something we've sustained. And we need to sustain that. The arts are very important. Some people go, why the arts? Because it's creativity. It's getting the brain to think in an inspired way, which inspires young folks to think the same way. So these things are important, like libraries. Who uses a library anymore? I don't know, but some people probably do. Most of it's online now. But, the arts, the culture, the things that make us all who we are, it's not the job you do.
Well, that's right. It enriches your life, the enjoying, whether it's a movie, theater, reading a book. I mean, that's enjoying music. I mean, those are things that make life just better. I mean, that's.
And I would say Steve Azar does an absolutely bang-up job with so many great folks in the entertainment world in Mississippi and others that I think he's one of the great assets we have, because Steve in his role is Mississippi's cultural ambassador. Without somebody like him, I don't think we hear and see as much about the great things in the arts, the humanities, the museums, the culture, the events that are going on. And Steve, I think, does an amazing job of informing us. And, folks, y'all listen every day. If there's something going on in your communities that we don't know about, we're the conduit to get it out for you. So if there's anything going on out there, we love the little farmers markets and things on Saturdays. That's one of the greatest things that I think my Saturday I get to hang out with Garden Mama is all of the farmers markets and the produce places and all that all over the state, and the plant swaps and those little things like that. That is community. And I absolutely think that's one of the strongest things that we offer here is that community.
It really is one of the best places to live anywhere in the world.
You want fresh food? We got it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't do a good enough job of telling our story to people outside. And somebody pointed this out on the C Spire text line. And if you got thoughts, you can send us a text at 601-879-4395. Just there's so many awful stereotypes about Mississippi that people who've never been here, who aren't from here, believe and think, gosh, we'd never think about living in a place like Mississippi. And I think if a lot of them actually came here and saw it, they'd go, why are we not living in a place like Mississippi right now? This is where we need to be.
Well, we've been the butt end of jokes. It's sometimes probably warranted. But this state is growing by leaps and bounds.
That's right.
And when you are mentioned on an X platform, when somebody's comparing German quality of living to Mississippi, that Mississippi's quality of life, the average economic the average income is on par almost with Germany.
And above France.
Think about that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Could we have said that? And would we be looking at this 10 years later going, wow, we're better off than French people?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right.
We're on par with Germans. I mean, these are countries that have been around for a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
With a lot more people here, and a lot more industry.
There are lots of movies and books that are written about people going, Americans going and living in Italy or going and living in France. But economically, somebody needs to write the book about some middle-aged divorcee who comes down to Mississippi and fixes up a house and discovers love and everything else. Yeah. So if you're an author out there who've heard this is the great opportunity because economically you're much better off living here.
Well, and then the 601 also says, guys, be quiet. You're telling all of our secrets. Everybody's going to want to move here. That's right. We've got to be careful with that.
That's the truth. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more coming up after this break.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
you have some lovely children and a lovely wife. You have a healthy bank account and had a healthy life, but you knew the day was coming. It was always meant to be. The doctor says it's time to have a colonoscopy. Oh, colonoscopy. A wonderful procedure, as everyone can see. Your numbers up, it's time to take one for the team. It's right there on the schedule, a colonoscopy.
Good morning, everybody. On that note, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi. We've got with us in studio Dr. Dan Edney, the State Health Officer and the head of the Mississippi Department of Health. Good morning, Dr. Edney.
Good morning, Lucian. Thank you. Yes, get your colonoscopies, folks.
I'm turning 45 here soon. I understand the guidelines have been moved down.
45 it is.
I'm looking forward to seeing my doctor for the annual wellness visit and letting her tell me all about it.
So let me tell you, my colonoscopy saved my life.
Really?
It did. My father died of colon cancer. I was found to be a polyp former, and catching them in the pre-malignant stage is keeping me from developing colon cancer like my father had.
Wow.
So they're important.
Well, they are, and everybody should do it. Listen to their doctor. Go get regular care. Well, so tell us a little bit. I know for people who don't know, and you're on often, so there probably aren't many people who don't who listen to the show. Tell us a little bit about what the State Department of Health does in Mississippi.
Oh, it'd be quicker to say what we don't do. We have.
You don't do free colonoscopies, right?
we don't, but we're going to start doing free Cologuard tests, Lance. How about that?
There we go.
That's my man right there.
Lucian, we have jurisdiction for the state in a regulatory space from everything from hospitals, nursing homes, to professional licensure, child care, all the way down to tattoo artists and hair braiders.
Wow.
And most everything in between if it relates to health. But then we also are responsible for population health issues. And if you look at the state law that authorizes the state health officer position, there's a laundry list of things that the state of Mississippi expects a state health officer to work to improve. And guess what's number one on the list? Maternal infant mortality.
Really?
So I take that very seriously, but it also includes things like heart disease, diabetes, the top three causes of death in Mississippi. So it's not about just running a state agency. State health officer duties are to develop strategies and implement those strategies to improve population health of the state, and then also to run a big state agency. And then we also we're a centralized public health entity, so we provide the clinical services for public health all over the state and the county health departments. Most states don't do that, but we, Alabama, do that. Oklahoma does that. So when you go to your local county health department, that's the Mississippi State Department of Health running that.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about infant mortality in Mississippi. I know that's always a focus at the Department of Health, but right now a particular focus, I understand it.
It is. It's been a particular focus since I became state health officer 3 years ago. And when I was talking to the Board of Health about accepting the post, it was with understanding that coming out of the pandemic, we would be pivoting towards population health initiatives, with number one being to improve maternal infant mortality. It is the one population health outcome I think most us Mississippians are most ashamed of and want something done about it. We're very much a pro-life state, and when we have 3,200 plus babies die in a decade before their first birthday, wow, none of us want that. And it also, as I'm preaching, it will not fix itself. If it were going to fix itself, it would have by now. So we have been working the last 3 years really hard in that space, and we have made improvement in maternal health. And you can't divorce maternal health and infant health. But our maternal mortality rates are lower, less than 50 deaths a year now. But the babies are not going down. And in fact, 2024 was the highest mortality rate among babies that we've had in a decade, and that's in the face of declining birth rates.
Okay.
So we're down, Lucian, about 1,000 live births a year the last few years,
but we're up in the number of children who are dying early.
But mortality rate is just jumped on us, and it. 2023 was the first year in Mississippi where the number of deaths were larger than the number of births. So, and there's been a lot of talk about the brain drain, and that's a big deal. But, when we're not reproducing at previous rates and we're losing babies at way too high of a rate, our brain drain has a lot to do with premature death, putting brains in the ground, as well as losing them to Nashville. So at the Department of Health, we've been working hard the last 3 years, reimagining the old premise system, which is the old maternal infant health system, into the Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies, and we're still working on that project. And then we've been working politically and through the economics and pulling the resources together to develop our fourth statewide system of care that I'm calling the obstetrical system of care. And this is where I'm telling folks, look, we don't have bad doctors, we don't have bad nurses, we don't have bad hospitals, we have a bad system. We have a system as a rural state where high-risk moms are having difficulty accessing obstetrical care because we don't have enough OBs and they're not spread out well in the rural areas. And we have high-risk women delivering at lower levels of birthing hospitals who then they either need a higher level of care for themselves or very commonly their baby does.
And that's somebody's not catching it early enough, or just it's not systematized enough to get them to the right. Okay.
But we have women who are not engaging in prenatal care early enough, so they're showing up to the ER delivering and have not had prenatal care, which makes it really high risk for that baby. But then also, the old system has been deliver at home and transfer, and really what we need to do is get that, just like trauma, just like heart attacks, we don't want you at the closest hospital with your heart attack. We want you at the closest cath lab that can put a stent in and stop that heart attack. And the system gets you there quickly. We need the same thing. We don't need high-risk women necessarily delivering at the closest birthing hospital. We need them at the right level birthing hospital.
That makes sense.
And for that baby, if it's a high-risk baby, if this is a 28-weeker, that baby does not need to be born in a community hospital. That baby needs to be born in a hospital with a NICU. Because right now it's taking too long to move that baby to a NICU. We've got to do it faster. The public health emergency that we declared last week is helping us move the construction of the OB system of care much faster, hopefully being able to deploy it 6 months or even earlier, more quickly than the previous time scale. And at this point, the purpose of a public health emergency is to overcome issues with procurement that get in the way of saving lives, and that's where we are with infant mortality right now.
So by declaring this, you'll be able to move more quickly to get the system in place.
That's right.
So in practice, how will this system work once this is in place?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, just mirroring what we already do with other systems of care. If a mom is in labor and she presents to a lower level birthing hospital or even worse, a non-birthing hospital, then that hospital is able to activate the system where she has a patient identifier placed, and we're able to see where she is and track her in real time. And once the system knows that she is in Coahoma County and needs to be in Jackson, then if she's delivering it, we don't have time to move her, then we deploy resources to her right away. We send the neonatal transport unit as soon as we know. We get it on the road to go get that baby, and we alert UMC, we have a baby coming to the NICU based on the risk category. It will allow us at the Department of Health to survey all the birthing hospitals, all the nurseries, all the NICUs, and for us to determine what they're capable of doing, and for them to receive, just like a trauma hospital gets a designated level of care, the birthing hospitals will get a maternal level of care, and the NICUs will get a neonatal level of care. So we know, Amory can handle a 30-week gestational age baby. So we can get 30, 31 weekers to Amory. 27 weeker needs to go to the higher level NICUs, and we know where the beds are, and we can work to get those babies moved quickly, or even better, get that mom moved to a higher level of care so she delivers it at that higher level, and that baby is in the NICU immediately.
We're coming up against a break here in just a second. Do you have time to stick with us for one more segment?
Sure.
Okay. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for more after this. And if you've got questions or thoughts for Dr. Edney, send us a text at the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Maybe I'll start tonight. You'll just cry like me. Baby, let's just wait and see. Maybe I'll start tonight.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Still have with us Dr. Dan Edney with the State Department of Health. We're talking a little bit about infant mortality in the state and the work that the Department of Health is doing to combat it. What is driving both the increases and just the infant mortality generally in the state?
Poverty drives most everything in terms of poor health outcomes in Mississippi, and maternal infant mortality is no different. When we look at the vast majority of these deaths, both mothers and babies, they're Medicaid moms and babies.
Okay.
So they're impoverished. But it's not Medicaid's fault. Medicaid actually covers quite well to take care of babies and their moms. It's just a marker of a high-risk, very vulnerable population. And, so we have to, really lean into where the deaths are occurring. Now, I'll tell you, Caucasian deaths are too high, but there's a huge jump from the mortality rate between white babies and black babies. It's 2.5 times different. Oh, wow. But we're too high for all of us, and our mortality rate should be, if we had less of a disparity between white and black babies, it would be probably, instead of 9.7 per 1,000 live births, it'd be more like 7.2. But the U.S. Mortality rate is 5.4, 5.6 range, which, we're 9.7.
Okay.
So that just shows you the big swing between U.S. and us. And Lucian, we calculated, I told you over 3,200 in the last decade, but you go back, I was born in 1961, you go back to the babies born the same year I was, and the babies we've lost over my lifetime, and that's enough babies to double the size of Vicksburg.
Goodness gracious.
And that's all lost opportunity. It's horribly expensive to the economy of our state. Maternal infant mortality cost us about $3.2 billion a year of negative impact to the GDP of Mississippi. It's just, headwind that our economy, didn't need. So these investments are important from human capital, most importantly, but also economic capital. This stuff is really expensive, for all of us. So, for the amount of money to build our forced system of care, it is going to pay huge dividends of return on that investment. The other benefit of this public health emergency is Mississippi controlling the narrative instead of just us being the whipping post again whenever the CDC releases the really bad report. Right now, all the press is about what Mississippi is doing and how we as Mississippians care about this. Our elected officials care about this. Our doctors, nurses, hospitals care about this, and average Mississippians care about this. I'm a father and a grandfather, and man, this is just something we got to fix.
I don't know how anybody who's a parent or a grandparent can't be affected emotionally just thinking about the idea of somebody losing a newborn child.
Right.
Are there things, if you're a expecting parent, I mean, what do you wish people would do more of?
So, number one, for women to get prenatal care just as soon as they're pregnant. We're working hard to make it easier for women to get prenatal care. At the Department of Health, I have pulled the trigger for us getting back into the prenatal and postpartum care business in the OB deserts only.
Okay.
So the blank spots, there's a health department. We're going in and we're eliminating that blank spot. So that desert will go away. That will improve access to prenatal care. And then secondly, once that baby is born, then safe sleep habits are critically important. ABCs of safe sleep. Always place your baby down to sleep on their back in a crib. Always on their back in a crib.
Don't put them in their bed.
No,
your bed with them.
We lose way too many babies. The older babies we're losing to sudden unexplained infant death syndrome, and in that group are the strangulations, the babies who get caught up in the bedclothes and they're suffocating. The worst ones are when mama or daddy rolls over and they sleep on top of the baby. Put infants in a crib. And I know people are tired and worn out and they want to comfort the baby, but it's not worth risking your baby's life bringing them to bed. Keep them in the crib on their back.
Well, and so much has changed, too. I mean, I look at pictures of me and my sister when we were babies, and you'd never sign off on the kind of bumpers on the inside of the crib and stuff that were standard, and putting us on our stomach, which is what everybody was told to do 40 years ago.
And then, grandparents. If you're more than 10 years out from your tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis booster, and you have a newborn in your family, get your booster to protect that grandbaby from pertussis.
Well, we've got about 20 seconds left, Dr. Edney. Any final thoughts?
This is something that we can make better as all hands on deck among the health department and all of our community partners. We appreciate everybody's support. We appreciate our elected officials' support as we all work to keep our babies alive and healthy and make their first birthday. If we can get them to their first birthday, we have a chance to get them to high school graduation.
That's great. Well, thank you for all the good work y'all are doing at the Department of Health. That's been Dr. Dan Edney, the State Health Officer and the head of the Mississippi Department of Health. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. Coming up next, we'll have Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the Super Talk app.
When they play their music, that hard rock music, they back it with a lot of flash, but it's still that same old backbeat rhythm that really, really gets them in the. They say the hard rock and roll is the beat, and from what I've seen, I believe them. Now the old one may be better rhythm, but the hard rock and roll.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. In our 8 o'clock hour, great conversation with Dr. Edney. It really is. I mean, just heartbreaking stories. You can't imagine losing a young child, whether it's a newborn or a little bit later in that first year. But it's just terrifying stuff.
Well, I mean, you think about that. It being almost double the national average too that's never good.
Glad they're doing work on it. Another thing, there were some, we didn't talk about this, but there were some studies out that shows Mississippi has a higher than average issue with people leaving children in cars, and the
which being here in the Deep South, that I don't even imagine how you could think that. Like,
it takes no time flat. Yeah, no, that's what
I can't believe.
But there've been some really interesting studies on this. Like, obviously, there are some bad parents who do this. There are some people who have drug, alcohol, some other problem, and leave their kids in their car. but they're also the frequency with which it happens by really great parents all over the country is shocking, and it's because I'm going to butcher this, but the Washington Post did this very, very long story 10 or 15 years ago about children who get left in cars, and they talk about how it's your unconscious brain, right? It's when you drive to work in the morning. If you think about it, some days you kind of forget that you drove to work. Like you get in the car, you do your thing, but you don't have a really concrete memory of driving to work. And they say what happens most frequently, these repetitive tasks that we do, an unconscious part of the brain takes over when we do them regularly. So your drive to the office, you're thinking about other things, and your unconscious is really driving the car. And that it tends to happen with parents who aren't the primary caregiver. So, the person who goes to the office every day happens to have the child, is heading to, daycare, school, wherever, and something disrupts the plan. A call comes in they weren't expecting. There's a detour that they have to take. And that unconscious part takes over, and the brain just it's taking you to work. It knows that you go to work in the morning. It takes you there, and that people who are good parents, loving parents, this happens to them too. And so, be careful. Throw your phone, throw a shoe, throw something in the back of the car, because it's one more kind of preventable death for children that happens to even very good parents. So all of that's important, including the safe sleep stuff. Our children are old enough now that we're not thinking about that. But I remember when they were newborns, the stuff. And my wife just went on a deep dive on what was and wasn't safe. And there's so many rules there, and it's important that people follow them, even if it's not the way that you slept, or the way that if you're a grandparent, not the way that you put your kids down.
I have a worry, and what does it go back to say? And I hate to even reference this guy because he was a cuckoo brain, but he was also extremely smart. But the Unabomber warned us that as we become more technologically driven and rely more and more upon technology, that we will forget how to think.
Yeah.
And it has, some of these excuses, seems like people they got too much going on in front of them to pay attention to what
they need to be.
Truly need to be doing. I see it every day, and I've noticed this a bit over the years, is the number of people driving in the left lane going 50 miles an hour in a 55 or 60 on the cell phone. Literally on the phone.
Unbelievable.
And you'll pass by them, and they look at you with this stink look like I've done something wrong for passing them on the right side, looking at them while they're on their phone, driving 45. And I see this so much more and more and more. I see more garbage on the side of the roads. I read an article about campsites. People just leaving junk everywhere, not following the rules. In other words, it seems to me we're getting a little more too independent. We're getting to a mindset where we're going like, well, I got this. This is more important than that. I don't care what you think.
Well, it's not just this is more important. It's that I'm more important.
I'm more important. That self-centeredness, it seems that we're seeing more of that. Now, again, I'm not accusing. It just seems that the amount of out of sight, out of mind stuff where people just don't even care. And it seems that maybe some of this is carrying over as well into these infant mortality problems when you have a double, the national average in some of these things. It's almost like, well, I really don't want to deal with that. It's too hard. Or, instead of following the black book of how to do something and to be maybe, conscientious and aware of those around you, it seems that we're getting a little further away from that. And do you believe that maybe technology and the dependence upon, say, the phone and these social apps and all this stuff has automated our brain a bit to where we're just not thinking sometimes?
You're probably right. I remember when we had our first child, we were, like a lot of parents, terrified of SIDS. And, statistically, it's a very, Mississippi's higher than average, as Dr. Edney was talking about, but you're statistically unlikely to suffer that tragedy as a parent. The amount of technological products that are sold to try to really prey on the fear of parents. But I remember having a conversation with our pediatrician, and she said she didn't recommend those sorts of things. And these are like the sock you can buy that's $200 that's supposed to see if your kid is their heart's beating, or you can get special pajamas that an expensive monitor can look at and tell them if they're breathing. And her advice to us was, A, those things are really expensive. You almost certainly do not need them. But 2, there have been some studies that suggest it makes parents less attentive. And so it increases the risk, because instead of you going in and checking on the child periodically, you know you've got this piece of technology that's doing it for you, and that it sometimes leads to worse outcomes. Now, I've not looked at those studies. I'm not telling you that's accurate, but the counsel was, what you ought to do is go in and check on the child, follow best practices on taking care of them. Don't rely on a piece of technology to do it for you, which I think makes a lot of sense. But I'll tell you, Lance, going back to the phone thing, it blows me away how frequently you see people on an interstate highway.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Like, not just talking on the phone.
Watching something.
But full-on watching something, sending a text message. I mean, that's not just selfish. And we tell our kids not to say this, but I'm going to say it. It's not just selfish. It's stupid.
It is stupid.
It is stupid.
I've encountered enough of it recently that it bothers me enough, because I've also seen an increase in people on motorcycles driving between cars doing 70 miles an hour. Like, you're going down the highway, and then all of a sudden somebody goes 120 miles an hour between you, and you're like, what in the this happened?
Had it happen over the weekend. I mean, it's just crazy.
I'm not sure how you solve some of that. I mean, obviously, more police and all this stuff, but I mean, we all have a brain.
Right.
You hope it's functioning. It seems that sometimes it doesn't, though. And I've encountered a couple of those where I've actually pulled the person over and said, hey, what are you thinking? Oh, I mean, it ain't hurting anybody. I said, you're endangering my life. Well, when you're endangering the next person over here. They don't care. I mean, so that kind of out of
but it's
disassociation from reality a bit.
Throwing trash out of your car is selfish. Not cleaning up your campsite and leaving it trash is selfish. Watching a video on TikTok while you're driving is selfish because it endangers other people. But that you gonna get killed. I mean that you're gonna die.
It's just it's a bizarre in that you would think as we become more educated, smarter, more people. And all these folks going to work, there would be this collective mindset, but it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
It seems it's more like there's little cliques. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it this way.
That's right. I was in my this has been 10 years ago. I was in my old neighborhood, and I was going to work, and there was a student because I lived near a college. There was a student driving in the wrong lane, coming straight at me. Now they weren't going fast; they were probably going 20 miles an hour. But, you could see them looking at their phone, and there was a minute where I thought, should I just let them hit me? I feel like this would be a good I got insurance, that this would be a good life lesson for whoever this young person was. And I ultimately realized that was an absolutely terrible idea. Honked with plenty of time for them to get back in their lane. But my wife's cousin is a volunteer firefighter, and so he has had to respond to a bunch of accidents, and he told me the ones that are the worst are the ones where you can tell somebody was on the phone because they don't even slow down. They hit somebody going 70, 80 miles an hour and didn't have a clue it was about to happen.
And I've seen more people whizzing around school buses.
Oh, my gosh.
And just the other day, I have to commend Rankin County for getting out and policing after we had a report that there were several just whiz by a stopped bus with the stop sign out, kids trying to cross, and 70 miles an hour passing. That's the kind of stuff there that we've got to be better than that.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're listening to this, and tell everybody, say it again for the people in the back, when the stop signs are out on the truck, on the school bus, you cannot pass on either side. And it's not just the folks who rip around from behind the school bus, it's the folks going the other way. Like, you've got to stop. There's a child coming out. They may be fixing to cross the road. Yo, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We'll have more coming up.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi. A lot of folks had some strong thoughts about that discussion about driving while looking at your cell phone. The C Spire text line pretty well lit up there, Lance. And if you've got thoughts you want to share or commentary or want to let us know where you think we're wrong, send us a text at 601-879-4395. I love the idea that Kirk from Columbus brings up of having cameras on the school buses like they do in Texas and send people tickets.
I think so. That, again, that's got to stop. I mean, that's a reality that is not one I accept, honestly. And don't get me started on the bright lights.
Oh, people not dimming their lights?
Or ordering something from, North Korea that's 18,000 lumens higher than allowed by law. I mean, I have to wear sunglasses when I drive sometimes at night because of and again, it's not a complaint. It's more of just an observation that it seems that, we're getting a little away from courtesy somewhat, especially on the roadways. And that's where, major accidents happen. And I have to believe that when you don't show that courtesy and that respect for others, it probably carries over to other places. Going to the grocery and leaving the cart out and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we're better than this, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'd like to see Mississippians collectively pick up the slack there. No garbage on the highways. No shopping carts in the parking lots, and that's doing the little stuff. Maybe
sort of going back to the conversation we had about why Mississippi's such a great place to live in the 7 o'clock hour. Mm-hmm. Normally, that's something we're good at.
I
mean, we're normally the courteous people.
Backwards a little bit in that, and maybe it is a Me Too generation, as one of our listeners said, the younger. But I'm seeing this with white-haired folks too, not just the Me Too generation. I try to be as observant as I can. I'm not perfect. I promise you. I make so many mistakes.
We all, everybody does.
I'm calling everybody out. I'm calling myself out in this as well. I think we all need to do a little better. Mississippi's got so much to offer. And just pulling together a little bit, being courteous, being what we are, the hospitality state, as they say.
I do think, and I'm biased. I'm a Mississippian. I love Mississippi. Maybe this is inaccurate. But I've driven a fair number of times from Jackson, and I bet you we've got a truck driver somewhere listening right now who can tell us, hopefully pulling over to the side of the road before sending their text or using some sort of audio, if they've seen the same thing, the people who do it a lot more than me. I do think the highways get dirtier, and I mean dirtier with trash the further outside of Mississippi you go. So maybe we got work to do there, but
and we're such a beautiful state naturally. I mean, we got so much raw land and pastorals and trees, and I love getting on our highways. I really do. Whether it's the 2-laners or the 4-lane interstates, and there's so much beauty in this state. And when you see garbage on the side of the road, I just can't stand that. I have a friend of mine that's done great work here in the Jackson area, Lock Ward, and those that he's affiliated with. And it's made a great difference. But at the same time, you can go back to the same area that was just cleaned a week later, and there's junk everywhere.
It's coming right back out. You're right.
So we got to get better at that.
Well, Brandon on the C Spire text line points out that a little more colorfully than I'm going to, that there are a lot of cars that automatically dim their lights now, which is true. I've seen a good number. No, trust me, it's not everybody. You just see a lot with those super, whatever they call them, lights. Well, I don't understand what the point of that is. I mean, I get if you're driving off-road and you really want to light up something, out in the woods, but I don't understand why on Highway 16 you need that many lumens.
Yeah, it's you can see them coming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a big fan of the LED lights. They work so much better. I'll shoot you straight. Those old candle ones that we used to use, you couldn't see much.
Yeah.
So the lights are much better, but there also is that cost of unintended consequences where a lot of retinas are getting burned out. So I'm sure the ophthalmologists are like, bring it on, brighter lights, come on.
Well, you can now get just about every SuperTalk Mississippi show on your favorite podcast app. Mornings with Richard Cross, Middays with Gerard Gibbert, Good Things, Sports Talk Mississippi, along with favorites like Thunder and Lightning, The Rebel Report with Michael Borky, The Eagle Hour, and many more SuperTalk Mississippi podcasts are available. Just search for SuperTalk anywhere you listen to podcasts. Are you the one who puts that together, Lance? Is that how that...
Which one was that?
The podcasts?
Well, only on the shows that I deal with.
But you're the one who does the magic to make it happen?
For the 5 that I work on, yeah. So the what we do, you basically want to take out the ads a lot of times. And so,
Makes sense.
The podcast itself, is generally just a raw cut. But once we, slice it up and do things with it, YouTube also has the show that will be in its entirety, most all of them. And,
I didn't realize that. You can get it on YouTube?
Commercials cut out and glued back together, yeah.
Okay.
And then generally we'll have some clips and things of that nature, like little social media clips that are pulled from the shows that allow you a little bit more of a brief look into what the bigger conversation that we were having may have been, whatever that topic is. So I'll have a couple, about like 4 or 5 for this show, and they'll all get dumped out there in the ether of the internet. And SuperTalk Mississippi, using that as your key wording, always gets you to the right place wherever you are.
And you, like you said, you can get it just about anywhere.
Yeah.
The video is the biggest change since I've started coming on the show. I mean, when I started coming on 15 years ago, you show up. I didn't normally out of respect to the host, but like if you hadn't shaved, you needed to wear a baseball cap that morning, you were just fine. But you got to make sure you're looking your best now because it's going to be on YouTube and on C-Spire TV.
Right. Well, and I'm a big YouTube junkie. I love getting into rabbit holes.
Oh,
the one I just started on is the background story of Volodymyr Zelensky. The full biography.
Him coming up through the KGB and all that.
Coming up through all the goodies. Yeah, being a comedian and all that stuff. But
Zelensky.
Zelensky.
I'm thinking of Vladimir Putin.
Vlad, not Bolad.
I'm getting my sides of the war confused.
And it's interesting, because there is so much information out there. On every topic, just about anything you want to know about. If it's 4-winged creatures 4 foot tall on the moon, there are going to be plenty of people out there. Now, the guy that I love is this Russian guy, and he's fairly young. He's probably early 30s, and he is. I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember it, but he covers the Russian side of the war with Russia and Ukraine. I try to watch both sides of this to get the opinions and see the facts as much as you can. But I love his color because, every leader that he discusses is pretty much, he uses their name and everything. But hearing a Russian guy call Zelensky the green T-shirt, that's what they call him, the green T-shirt.
Just because he wears that stuff all the time?
Yeah, that's what his nickname is to Russians, is the green T-shirt.
Huh.
And so I didn't know that until I started watching Russian stuff where they call him the green T-shirt. So it's always funny listening to him when he starts Putin and this and then the green T-shirt says this. But it's funny. But it really is, the amount of information we have access to is outrageous.
You're absolutely right.
JT's going to go into a little detail, I hope, on all that we do on a Friday night. Just Super Talk Mississippi and all the games that we cover. I mean, it's unlimited. You can't consume all of the information that's out there. Sometimes you wonder if people's ears, it just starts oozing out, all of the stuff that we consume every day, because there's so much more. And just circling back to where you were like 15 years ago, the access to all this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
There,
But it cuts both ways, right? Because to your point, I'm confident you can find a video that will explain to you in 4D, very well done, glossy voiceover, the whole bit. Looks very professionally produced. That can tell you all about the 4-foot winged creatures that live on the moon.
They got bases, on the backside somewhere.
This has been a couple years ago, but there was a documentary done by some group that promotes the theory that the Earth is in fact flat, and they were able to get one of the actors who had been a captain on one of the Star Trek series to record a bunch of the narration. But I guess she didn't know what the narration she was reading. I mean, it wasn't. She was not reading the stuff that said the Earth was flat. She was reading more general narration, and didn't know until after, as I appreciated, until after the show came out that she had actually been the narrator of this thing. And they made a big deal of so and so, the captain of whatever is
like Morgan Freeman narrating it. Basically, if he says it's okay, then
it must be true. Then it must be true.
Yeah, the flat earthers. That's always a fun one.
I'm pretty sure it's around.
I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, it's. But yeah, always. I will honestly. I will watch a couple of those every blue moon just to remind myself that there are some people out there that think way differently than I do.
Yes.
Based on the same information in front of you, you can take two completely 180s on the same thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, Norma from Gillsburg on the C-Spire text line says, enjoying the show. So glad you mentioned Locke Ward. He does such great work. You're right. The amount of time he's done cleaning up the Jackson area, cleaning up the streets really is a good thing, and we need it.
Yeah, he's seen me throw a bunch of putters and melt down on the golf course enough that we're still friends. I remember one time we were playing, and he got upset with me. This was 20 years ago because I threw about 8 clubs and dumped the bag out, tried to flip the cart over, and he's like, "Man, what in the bleep are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm venting." Yeah. Now I got to get back. That's the way I got to get it out, man. But he was such a great friend to understand that. And he's still just a wonderful guy. Great father, great husband.
Good fella. Well, y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have J.T. Mitchell, News Director, SuperTalk Mississippi, right after this break.
Sumner to Summit to Summerall. Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, we are here with J.T. Mitchell, the news director for Super Talk News. J.T., thanks for being with us.
Lucian, I haven't seen you in a while, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here.
You get up early this morning?
I sure did. I got up the first time when my 4-year-old climbed into bed about 1:40 and stuck his foot in my face. So it was a good way to start, but it got me plenty of time to get ready for the show. So.
Well, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us what's going on, JT.
Well, lots. It was a busy Sunday yesterday. You probably saw the articles at supertalk.fm that we got surprising word that Joe Max Higgins at the Golden Triangle Development Link was seemingly let go. I mean, I got a press release yesterday evening, and it really didn't have much information, but said Higgins is out. We're starting a search for a new CEO immediately. And for people out there who don't know what I'm talking about, the Golden Triangle Development Link is one of the, I guess, probably the longest standing economic development group in North Mississippi. You know, they cover Clay, Oktibbeha, and Lowndes counties, and their goal is to bring in business. And Joe Max Higgins has been there for over 20 years, $10 billion in economic development to his name, and then boom. Yesterday, a press release, he's out.
And he's been hugely successful. I mean, the link has been, everybody in the state just about says, you know, what do we need to do to be more like what Joe Max is doing at the link?
I mean, you're exactly right. They just started an economic development group in the Oxford area. And I heard Ryan Miller pretty much say on air on this program that we're looking at places like the link to see where we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And we can bring economic development to our area. So he has been wildly successful. But I was shocked when I got the press release. And, of course, this show and others through this company have done plenty of remotes at the link, and they always have good news.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was during one of the earlier interviews, I saw the headline pop up and was floored by it. I had to put it away because I knew I needed to do my job and talk to who I was interviewing. But that's incredible. Any insights you can share there, or is that still just developing?
So in the press release, they did not disclose why Higgins was let go. And I knew that was going to be a question you asked. I knew it was going to be a question that listeners and readers asked. And so we reached out to Bill Cork with the Mississippi Development Authority. Now, that is the best way to put it is the state-run economic sector that helps these different groups like the Link.
That's right, the state's economic development agency.
Correct. And he said on the record that he's like us. He's surprised. And what he's heard is that it's a local HR matter, and it was a decision by the Link Executive Committee, and that he hopes to hear from Joe Max soon. And speaking of hearing from Joe Max soon, we also reached out to him, Richard Cross did, And he said that he'll join this program later this week to share his side of the story.
Not booked yet, though. We don't know when.
No, but we will let you know as soon as it is booked.
And that'll be one more reason you should keep your dial locked in to SuperTalk Mississippi, wherever you are.
That's why I took last week off. Yeah.
There we go.
I'm not missing this.
And so, you know, my grandfather used to say there's three sides of every story. And I look forward to hearing Joe Max's, because we kind of have the side from the link. We caught up with Bill Cork because he was an appropriate interview to try to get. And I really do look forward to hearing what Joe Max says, because like I said, he's been there for over 20 years, $10 billion in economic development to his name, and then a random press release said he's out.
It's going to be fascinating to hear, because he is an institution in the development in the economic development world, and there's basically no one around state government or universities who, if you say Joe Max, doesn't know exactly who you're talking about, because he's done such an incredible job up there.
Yeah, he has. And I guess it was in May they announced plans for the 5th megasite under his purview.
Wow.
And I mean, he's got championship rings for literally championship rings for every megasite he's built. You know, here in the Jackson Metro, we talked about the megasite in Madison, right? Or Madison County. That's one megasite.
Right.
They have 5 that he's come up with.
That's extraordinary. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see as that story develops. So,
yep.
What else is going on out there?
Well, talking about a busy Sunday, which we're recapping now, did you see the news about Blue Sky? Are you a Blue Sky user, Lucian?
I am not a Blue Sky user. I'm familiar with the service, but for people who are not, tell us what Blue Sky is.
Well, you cannot be a Blue Sky user anymore if you live in Mississippi. Blue Sky it's got an interesting story. First off, it's a social media platform. And it used to be owned by Twitter. It was a research development project.
I didn't realize that.
Right, under the old CEO. I think they were kind of using it as a module to figure out what they could do better on Twitter.
Okay.
And then it became an independent company. They let go of the funding. And when Elon Musk took over Twitter, he's all about his self-proclaimed free speech, that he decided to make it a little more lax. He changed some moderation guidelines, etc., and Blue Sky saw a surge. They kind of branded themselves as the safer, happier version of X.
Right? Kind of liberal Twitter, right? Wasn't that?
To an extent, yeah. And 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court of the U.S., the Supreme Court said that it will not block Mississippi's age verification law.
That was big. I saw that.
And so Mississippi passed a law in 2024 that essentially said if you're under 18, you have to verify that you have parental permission or you cannot use social media platforms. This comes after a teenager in Starkville was sextorted and subsequently and unfortunately took his own life.
Right.
And so it is intended to protect children. Blue Sky came out technically on Saturday, I believe, is when I got the press release. And they said they cannot afford to build the infrastructure in Mississippi to make every single user verify their age and then track every single user to make sure that they're using it correctly and are not under 18. They said they're a smaller company, can't afford it, and they really fluffed it up. I mean, they went after the law, honestly, to try to make themselves feel like they're not wrong by moving away. They said pending legal challenges, they may be back. But Blue Sky, if you go right now on your phone in Mississippi, it will come up with this disclaimer that says, sorry, we're no longer available to you.
That's interesting. But surely nowadays, and I'm sure they've thought it out, you wonder with these things, how often is it because they can't and how often is it because they don't want to. Mississippi's a small enough market where they can protest here in a way that if it were California or New York, they'd figure it out because they had to.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, if I had to guess, so Blue Sky has roughly 38.5 million users globally. I bet California is a huge chunk of that. And if this happened there, they'd probably find a way, or they'd go out of business.
I'm gonna make you a bet. I bet you that no one will text in on the C Spire text line right now and tell us they're a Blue Sky user. If you are, hit us up in the C Spire text line 601-879-4395.
You'd have to think it would have something to do with the number of users. Like JT was saying, we're a small company. They're not. Yes. They're probably not a small company in Cincinnati,
right?
Down here,
there just probably aren't many users.
Yeah, and when you talk about major social media platforms, X or Facebook, you can find a general number of how many people state by state use it. When I tried to do that for Blue Sky, I couldn't find even a rough count of how many Mississippi residents use it.
Yeah.
So, maybe 5 or 10. I'm one of them because I just have to track everything as a news guy.
Yeah, which makes sense for your job. But
I don't use it. I don't post on it, but I track because I have seen people move away from X that are in my industry and go to Blue Sky for whatever reason. It's their prerogative. But I may be one of 10 users in the state.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I remember when people were when Elon took over, all these people making these big announcements that they were leaving Twitter and going somewhere else, but they made the announcement on what was then Twitter or on X and let everybody know they were leaving.
And guess where I first saw the Blue Sky announcement?
On Twitter?
That's right.
X?
That's right.
I still can't completely bring myself to call it X.
It's hard.
Twitter was easier.
And it's hard to say, I didn't see this tweet, What I see, an X post? I don't know. Sounds kind of funky. But either way, Blue Sky is not available to Mississippians. And so we've been tracking it all, Lucian, at supertalk.fm. And then also, on a swift change of topic, it's a big week here. High school football begins.
Oh, yeah. We got about a minute left, so take it over. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and I know this is kind of outside the news realm, but SuperTalk Mississippi Media will be airing 19 games every single week beginning this Friday. Everyone from Gulfport to Brookhaven to Starkville High School to our newest, which is Hartfield Academy. And these will be on our talk and music stations. Hartfield will also be on SuperTalk TV. I mean, this is one of those things, Lucian, that a lot of people don't realize what all this company does. I don't think people realize that we're airing 19 games.
That's amazing.
Every week. And then afterward, from 10 until 11:30 p.m. on the 12 SuperTalk branded talk stations, you can hear Lance and company. They'll be doing the Mississippi Farm Bureau High School Scoreboard Show.
And who's anchoring the Hartfield
that
broadcast?
Would be Michael Borky, and I guess they needed somebody else, and so they asked me.
There we go. Well, make sure you're listening to your local SuperTalk station or watching SuperTalk TV on Friday as we do a lot of great high school sports coverage.
That's right.
JT, thanks for being with us. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on SuperTalk Mississippi on mornings. We'll have more coming up, some final thoughts.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Rounding out 3 great hours of radio here on Monday, August 25th. Lance, like we always say, it goes, the 3 hours just fly by.
It does when you're having a good time. We're not short for topics either.
There's a lot going on, a lot of news JT was able to cover. It sounds like there'll be more.
Did you happen to see the Charlie Gasparino articles a few days ago?
No.
Regarding wokeness and Cracker Barrel?
I did not.
Very good article if you're interested. It's out there in the New York Post. And I found it fascinating because I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen a trend go up and down as quick as wokeness?
You're absolutely right.
I mean, let's think. Has there been anything out there that had such a short lifespan but so impactful where businesses literally rewrote their entire marketing and, outreach to fit this woke narrative? Well, now Cracker Barrel, a company who's been a battleground stock, not a huge market share, but a company that has a great niche.
Yeah.
The country breakfast and the country lunch and the country store and Uncle Herschel in the barrel. They scrapped all the Uncle Herschel in the barrel, and they just went with a Cracker Barrel name with a yellow background. Well, Gasparino's saying, hey, wokeness is over, and many investors are now, as we watch interest rates and greater market sentiments, are now paying attention to those companies that are engaging and still embracing this trend of wokeness. And with a company like Cracker Barrel, who has not really gone anywhere anytime soon, if you look at the longs and the shorts, meaning the people that own the stock and the ones gambling against it, it's about even. And so they took this opportunity to rebrand at a time where investor sentiment is telling them, we really don't know what to do with you. So pay attention to Cracker Barrel, because as they've rebranded in a more woke mindset, in the wake of wokeness, you got to wonder, what are they thinking? But again, I think Charlie hits the nail on the head if you're interested in reading a little bit about that article.
That's worth checking out. Yeah, that's been the Cracker Barrel stuff has been interesting because, the rebrand to me, clearly at the corporate level, they've been engaging in a bunch of woke activity, woke donations is what I've read. The rebrand didn't strike me as woke. It just struck me as stupid. It's like it felt like that maybe the people running the company hadn't spent a lot of time in the stores and didn't have a clue who's eating in the store, who's enjoying the store. I thought when they started selling alcohol in some of them. I remember driving.
That's not a good mix. Probably.
Yeah, that's just. I think that's not what
that's
people.
Not the brand.
That's not the brand. So it just felt, it reminded me. The Budweiser thing was much more specifically woke, but it similarly felt like these are people who've never just hung around with a bunch of Bud Light drinkers and talked to them. Like, we've got no clue who our market is.
They backed out of that a bit.
Oh, yeah, no.
They were whoopsie daisies, and we want you to buy our beer, guys, the ones that don't really get into this Dylan Mulvaney stuff. There are companies that have continually embraced that. I would say Target being one, and
they're hurting at the moment.
So I guess that's where I wanted to finish. This was there ever a trend that was so detrimental to certain companies' bottom lines as to jump onto this train of stupidity called wokeness?
Well, I think it speaks to, and you see this in so many other areas, and you and I have talked about it before. Just the disconnect between parts of American elites and so much of the rest of America. That a lot of these people who've rebranded woke think, man, it's going to be great for us to do woke because everybody in their immediate social circle has gone woke. They think it's great.
If you've got a couple degrees from Harvard or somewhere like that, maybe that is the small pool that you fish in, and that's the only fish you catch is woke fish.
They think, man, this is great.
Y'all are doing awesome.
Great. Yeah. It's a great idea.
But 90%, 80% of the country's like, I don't think this isn't where I want to go forever.
And look, I like Cracker Barrel. That is not the community of people who are making these decisions.
No, and look, I'm a shopper. I like going to Cracker Barrel and Target and those places, but honestly, I have not gone back in a long time because of those types of mindsets.
Well, I think Target rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and you see the effect that it's had on its stock and its corporate outlook compared to these other competitors of theirs.
I think that's the biggest power as a purchasing power as Americans have, is to say no. Just boycott something for a minute. They're going to feel it, and then maybe decisions come back around to logic and sanity rather than lunacy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and that's the thing about it. I'm a conservative. You don't have to agree with me for me to want to buy your product or listen to your music or go see your movie. But I'd like for you to not actively let me know you hate me and what I believe. Because when you reach that point, it's like, you know what? I'm going to take my money and give it to somebody else.
I'll be happy to give it to somebody that doesn't hate me.
That's
I don't care if you like me. Just don't hate me.
Just don't hate me and tell everybody you hate me. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Man, it's been a great day. Thank you for letting me be a part of your show today.
Hey, I appreciate you letting me be here. This is always a pleasure. And thank you all who are listening for letting me spend this time with you. It's always a wonderful opportunity. This has been Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for more great coverage. Coming up next, we'll have Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.